Hi, I'm Dr. Kyle Eberline of Mid-Cities Dental and a parishioner of Good Shepherd Catholic Community in Colleyville. Dentistry can be expensive, especially if you know you need a lot of work. That's why you need to know all of your treatment options, and you need a dentist whom is on your insurance plan. This could potentially save you lots of money. Our office will offer you a no-obligation consultation with necessary x-rays. We can be reached at 817-282-9321 or midcitiesdental.com. Again, that number is 817-282-9321.
The Diocese of Dallas joyfully announces the upcoming ordination to the priesthood of Deacons Samuel Hernandez, Adam Musilak, Desmond Nidicum, Ricardo Jimenez, Juan Torres, and Andres Andrade. The Mass of Ordination will be closed to the public. The ordination can be viewed online on June 5th at 10 a.m. To watch the online broadcast, visit cathdal.org/video.
Do you know a healthcare professional who would benefit by learning more about fertility awareness and the Billings ovulation method? Someone in need of continuing education credit? BOMA USA, the Billings Ovulation Method Association, is a new sponsor of KATH 910 AM. They've created online training specifically for healthcare professionals or experienced fertility awareness teachers. Visit BOMA-USA.org and click on Health Professionals at the top of the page. Please spread the word to the healthcare professionals in your life.
Keeping you informed and inspired. Hi, Joe McLean here, host of the Catholic Drive Time, heard Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Central, 7 Eastern, right here on the Guadalupe Radio Network. News and information, Catholic conversation, inspiration, fun, and prizes are involved. Log on to our website to get all the details, to find all the information, the podcast, the videos, and so much more. grnonline.com. That's grnonline.com/CDT. God love you.
Hi, I'm Martha Eberline. My husband Kyle and I are parishioners at Good Shepherd Catholic Community in Colleyville. As a mother, I know that it is important to have a professional, caring dental team. At Mid-Cities Dental, we provide dentistry with compassion in a warm and friendly environment. We are located in Hearst, 15 minutes from the DFW airport. We can be reached at midcitiesdental.com or 817-282-9321. That's 817-282-9321. Thank you.
All of us here at KTH 910 AM are thankful to the Knights of Columbus from Council 759 at St. Elizabeth Antietam Parish in Keller for their support of the August 5th Summer Speaker Series event with guest speaker Father John Ricardo. The Knights encourage you to support their mission by purchasing tickets for their charity fundraiser raffle. Tickets are $5 each for a chance to win a $1,000 or $500 Visa gift card or a 55-inch smart Android TV. The deadline to purchase tickets is June 14th. To get tickets, search Knights of Columbus Council 759 on Facebook.
Thanks for listening to KATH 910 AM Frisco, Dallas, Fort Worth on the Guadalupe Radio Network in North Texas. Catholic radio for your soul. Heard also at grnonline.com and on your smartphone. Welcome to Back to the Father, a show about the journey of life focused on our final end, which is God Himself, our loving Father. And now, here's your host, Dave Palmer.
And welcome to another edition of Back to the Father here on the Guadalupe Radio Network social media sites every Friday, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern Time. Quick math, Dave, quick math. So if you're used to this show, you'll know a few things are true. First of all, we talk about St. Thomas Aquinas, the Summa Theologia, and how it applies to our everyday life. You also got to understand that on this show, you get hats, okay? And sometimes you get weird hats. And sometimes really weird hats. And sometimes they're not even hats. They could better be described as helmets.
That is true.
And then there's Jonathan von Weber-Hansberg. Jonathan, the last three have looked kind of similar, but they're all different, right?
They haven't looked similar.
They kind of do. I mean, to a non-helmet expert, yeah. They look similar.
Okay, they're all very different. The first was a Crusader's helmet, a great helm. The second was the Roman cavalry helmet. and this is, cavalry, and then this is a Viking helmet.
All right.
They don't actually have horns.
Okay. Yeah, and I said there's kind of like a mullet look in the back.
Oh my goodness gracious! I didn't even notice that.
Is that the old age's answer to the mullet?
So you don't get shot with an arrow back there. Got it.
Oh, is that right? So if somebody comes from behind and shoots you, that's going to stop an arrow,
Well,
huh?
I mean, really, if they stab me, it's probably going to like break my neck or something. But I mean, at least I don't know.
Yeah.
At least you won't break the skin.
Exactly.
It's fine. Exactly.
And are those your dad's? Is that right?
The Crusader helmet is mine, but these are my dad's. Yes.
Okay. All right. And Sissel, you have kind of a Greek look.
It does. I was just, as I was looking myself in the camera, I was like, wow, it's a 50s hat, like a little almost birdcage kind of hat.
Yeah.
It is.
Not pillbox,
it's
but
kind of almost pillbox.
Is there a top to it?
There is, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's not like a crown or anything like that. So it is pretty interesting. It unfortunately is a little bit deformed because it got squished in transportation. But yeah. So it's not as old as Jonathan's, but it's pretty cool. I like to say I think a new name for our show should be Back to the Hats.
That's a good yes.
Just kind of throw Thomas Aquinas out altogether, huh?
We could just do a history of
talk
hats.
about hats the whole time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you think we'd ever run out of material, or an hour a week?
I doubt
talking
it.
about
No,
hats?
never.
Well, let me consider that. Okay,
sounds good.
Consider
we can pitch it.
I'll get back to you on that one. Okay,
Sounds good.
And then Diane Xavier is our producer. She answers the phone calls, and if you know anything about this show, you know that we love participation. And
Yes,
we love
we
when
do.
especially when people call in, and I'll tell you, that just makes our day. We have a great topic today tied into the liturgical calendar, as I'll explain in just a moment. The phone number is 877-757-9424, 877-757-9424. We also have an in-studio guest. I'm not going to say his name, but he's a youngster. And he told me before the program started that he's very young, so he's excused for this. He has never heard of St. Thomas Aquinas.
Well, he's heard of him. He hasn't studied him. I got to stick up for my friend. He's heard of him.
Oh, okay. Is that right? You've heard of him, not studied him. Okay. All right. I stand corrected. So he's going to get an hour of St. Thomas Aquinas.
But he's going to know a lot
All
more.
right. So, and of course, I'm Dave Palmer, host of this program. I love the Summa, not because I love St. Thomas Aquinas, although I do. It's because of what reading the Summa has done for me. It's helped me really have a better understanding of God, my purpose, my end, and I get to do radio shows with guys in helmets. And so it's all kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
I do want to point out, though, a few episodes ago, Dave, he challenged me to wear my Crusader helmet in public.
Yes, I did.
And I showed Dave and Sissel this. There's a video of me, which I can't show you now, but my brother recorded me wearing my Crusader helmet and playing the banjo walking around in a park in my town. Mm-hmm. And it was very fun, and I got lots of very strange looks.
Yeah.
So.
They probably were just like, there go the von Weber-Hansbergs again.
Is that crazy family up the street, Mom?
Yeah.
Yeah,
With that name
that's
we can't
them
remember.
again. Now, I understand the challenge for the helmet, but why the banjo?
Just because I thought it would be fun.
Okay. Because, all right, well, I saw the video, so I know it happened, and I'm sure you freaked out a few people that day.
I did, yes.
Okay, so very good. All right, so we've talked about a lot of topics related to the Summa Theologia in this program. The other thing is, if you're watching us on social media, which all of you are, because that's the only place we're broadcasting.
We're here.
We want to hear from you, okay? So as we get into the topic, your questions, your comments kind of fuel what we're doing. And today we are going to talk about the Eucharist. And I throw out to our audience here, why on this particular day are we talking about the Eucharist and St. Thomas Aquinas? Of all the things that we could talk about. In fact, I changed topic about a day and a half ago, and I said, we got to talk about the Eucharist, but why do you think I would have done that?
Feast of Corpus Christi.
Yeah. And what's the connection between St. Thomas Aquinas and the Feast of Corpus Christi? I already told y'all.
I was going to say, should we blow everyone away with our knowledge on this, Jonathan?
Wait, I actually forgot what it was.
Jonathan.
Let's see if anybody knows
Oh my gosh.
who's
Yeah, does anyone
who's
know
watching.
what the significance between St. Thomas Aquinas and the
Oh,
Feast
no,
of
wait, no, I
Corpus
remember
Christi?
Okay.
Now
yeah.
he remembers.
Yeah,
Now he
don't
remembers.
say
Don't say it.
anything.
We're gonna
Diane, do you know? Okay.
I think you told her as well.
I told her.
Yeah, you
Okay.
told us this morning.
You told
Just
all
see
of
if she
us.
has good short-term memory, okay? Does anybody that's watching on our social media channels right now know what the connection is between St. Thomas Aquinas and the Solemnity of Corpus Christi, which, officially it was yesterday.
Okay.
Corpus
it was
Christi was
yesterday.
one of those ones that should be on a Thursday, but they've moved it to Sunday so that more people can participate in it.
I feel so good knowing that, Dave, because I was doing the St. Joseph consecration, and it was supposed to end on the
so did I.
yes, and it was supposed to end on the Feast of Corpus Christi, and I ended yesterday, and I went, I think I've done something wrong. I think I've missed a few days. I knew that it wasn't on Sunday, but I was like, I've messed something up, guys.
Yeah.
Now I know.
Now you know.
Now
so,
I know.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Ascension and some of the other ones that typically are on Thursdays, but
someone
they
has
have moved it.
commented, who you may also have informed, but
Adrian?
Paula on Facebook says he wrote the liturgy.
Yeah.
And ding, 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 ding.
See,
she
my
is
wife
correct.
and I have really deep conversations about things like, so let me give you a little bit of background. And St. Thomas Aquinas, as this bright, beautiful woman, Paula, has indicated, wrote the liturgy for Corpus Christi when Pope Urban IV added the solemnity to the Universal Church's liturgical calendar in 1264. And so that was about 10 years before St. Thomas Aquinas passed away. And you figure if you're the Pope and you're instituting a new liturgy in the liturgical calendar, and you got this guy, St. Thomas Aquinas, who seems pretty bright, and he's alive at the same time as you are, you're like, hey, why not? I'll go ahead and ask him. You know, they tried to get St. Thomas Aquinas to be a bishop. And he didn't want to be a bishop. You know, I guess he would have done it through obedience. But like Augustine, he was a bishop, right? They asked him, and he's like, yeah, why not? You know, you figure if you write as much as St. Thomas Aquinas, being a bishop would almost be kind of like, you know, gosh, I'd kind of rather just write all the time, right? So he never became a bishop. He was a
He's too busy writing liturgy for
that's
Corpus
right.
Christi.
And preparing us for our show.
Exactly,
Okay?
exactly.
He also wrote a hymn for Vespers called Pangua Lingua, Sing
Beautiful.
Tongue, the Mystery of the Glorious Body. You've heard of that, right?
Yes.
And he also wrote the Tentum Ergo.
Also love that one.
Do you know it in Latin?
I've sung it in Latin. I couldn't tell you like off the top of my head, like recite it, but I've sung it. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And but in addition, he wrote a hymn of Eucharistic thanksgiving called Adore te devote. Devoutly I adore thee. And so needless to say, St. Thomas Aquinas had great devotion to the Eucharist and to the Blessed Sacrament, and Pope Urban IV asked him to write the liturgy for the Feast of Corpus Christi. So when you go to Mass on Sunday, or if you went yesterday and you're enjoying the liturgy and perhaps some extra, parts of it that have special prayers, you look at the bottom of your page, it's going to say, written by St. Thomas Aquinas.
That's pretty cool.
There you go. All right, so we're going to talk about particular aspects of St. Thomas Aquinas' teaching on the Eucharist. And I've already thrown this one out to YouTube, but I want to ask the listeners, and I'm not going to tell you the answer to this until the end of the program, okay? So you got to be very patient. One article and one question that St. Thomas Aquinas asked in the Summa is, at the Last Supper, which we know to be the first Mass, did Jesus eat his own flesh? Okay, so if he had the first Mass, and we believe he consecrated the bread and wine at that Mass, did he eat his own flesh? Did he eat his own body? Okay,
I feel like
you guys want to take a stab at that?
Oh, you want us now to give a stab
Well,
at I was going to say, if you give me about 10 years, a patch of carpet for me to lay face down on and ponder it for about 10 years, I might come up with it.
Lie down for 10 years?
And just
And
ponder.
then you'd come up with the answer?
Probably not, but
Okay. All right,
So-
Jonathan, you want to take a guess?
I'm just gonna be impulsive and say yes, he did.
You think he did? Okay.
Okay,
All
interesting.
right.
Well, because I would.
I mean, the priest always eats the Eucharist.
That's
I
well.
mean-
I was gonna say that he was fully God and fully man. So, like the human part of that sounds really weird, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going, but
So
I
you're
probably should
saying
stop.
maybe Jonathan's going full bore
I'm just
yes,
gonna say yes.
right?
But if it's
Okay.
wrong, I went with no.
All right. And then the other one, it's not really a question, but did you know that back in the 13th century when St. Thomas Aquinas wrote, the issue of whether or not priests should give the Eucharist to public sinners was apparently on people's mind, because that's one of the questions that St. Thomas Aquinas asks in the Summa. And so as we prepare for the USCCB bishops to come together and have their meeting this month, and they're going to possibly be talking about whether Biden should receive the Eucharist, this isn't a new question. I mean, this is something that the church has been asking for many years, but any guess about how Aquinas comes down in this, which we'll learn at the end of the hour?
I'm gonna say yeah.
He probably
would say no. They should not receive.
Oh, you think so? Okay.
That's my thought. But
Okay.
though, Dave's having like no poker face. It's hard to tell if that's
poker face. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you at all. All right, so I cannot seem to get see messages on Facebook. So you tell me if anybody
I
does,
will.
in fact, say anything. And if you want to call in and really make our day, call 877-757-9424, 877-757-9424. And you'll follow along. I've got some pictures on the screen here. I have an image of people receiving the Eucharist. And if you think about that, of all the claims of any religion in the history of mankind, is there one more, and I want to use the words carefully here, more, I'd even say bizarre or like crazy than the fact that that God would basically turn bread and wine into himself, and we go to Mass every Sunday and receive this?
Mm-hmm.
I think there can only be two responses. You're either absolutely blown away and floored by this, that you're actually taking Jesus Christ, the God of the world, into yourself every Sunday, and possibly more than that, or you just say, that's crazy. That's absolutely nuts, and I can't accept that. I don't know if there could be a middle ground. I mean, it's like, yeah, that could possibly be true. I mean,
there's no like maybe it was partially real, partially the body.
The Lutherans believe it's consubstantiation.
Yep.
Right?
Really?
It's
a confusing belief. Not gonna lie.
It still retains some of the properties of bread and wine, but then it also contains some of the properties of God. So that's
kind of like a mixture.
Kind of a hybrid, I guess, to put it into car language, right? All right, so that's what we're going to talk about. So when you go before the Blessed Sacrament and you receive the Eucharist at Mass anytime, particularly on Sunday, particularly this Sunday, and you look at that, what looks like a piece of bread that the priest or the minister is handing to you, do you really internalize this is God? This is Jesus Christ? I mean, to me, that blows me away. And, I think we've become so used to it that it's kind of like, okay, go to Mass again and receive, the God of the universe and walk back to my car and, see if I can get home before the football game starts.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about today. What St. Thomas Aquinas says about the Blessed Sacrament, Corpus Christi. And yes, he did write the liturgy for Corpus Christi. All right, so here's the first question I'll ask my in-studio audience. Is the Eucharist the greatest of the sacraments?
Yes.
Yes.
Whoa, wow, no equivocation there. Okay, it's the greatest. Is it the most necessary of the sacraments? What do you think?
Our in-studio other guest is
look at that.
So now I'm second-guessing everything.
No, you're saying it's not the most important? Okay, wow. So Cecil being influenced by the in-studio guest. So you're saying it's not
Is there a difference between greatest and important, though?
I'm just asking the question as it's played out. Okay. Is it the greatest of the sacraments? Okay, so baptism, confirmation, Eucharist, reconciliation, matrimony, holy orders, and anointing of the sick. Okay, so you answered pretty quickly there, Jonathan.
So you got to stick to your
starting
guns.
to have doubts.
I mean, it's the most glorious. I mean, it's God.
I didn't say the most
glorious.
glorious.
He said the greatest, Jonathan.
Well, I'm thinking that. Well, it depends on when if you say that it's the greatest for us. I would say something maybe more along the lines of baptism or confession. But I think just objectively, the greatest would be the Eucharist, because that's the most amazing thing.
Yeah.
It's the pinnacle of the Mass, which is the pinnacle, like the summit of our Christian life.
It is the source and summit of our faith, so that is
kind of hard to beat that.
It's hard to beat that, but at the
when
same
you're at the
time,
top, at the summit,
my phone a friend is closer to having his first communion classes recently, so maybe he knows something I don't know. Not joking.
All right. Well, Jonathan is definitely in line with the angelic doctor.
That's right.
He is in line with the doctor of the doctors. Okay, so here's what Thomas Aquinas says. You can follow along on the screen at home. Absolutely speaking, the sacrament of the Eucharist is the greatest of all the sacraments, and this may be shown in three ways. Okay, first of all, because it contains Christ himself substantially, whereas the other sacraments contain a certain instrumental power, which is a share of Christ's power. Okay, so it's Christ himself. Secondly, it's because all of the other sacraments seem to be ordained to this one as to their end. Okay, you think about it. You're baptized in order to be, initiated into the life of Christ, right? You become a child of God. You're confirmed so that the Holy Spirit will more enliven you in order that you can be more united to Christ, right? So you're ordained a priest. Why? So that you can give the Eucharist and Jesus to other people. So all the other sacraments are in service of this one in a sense, right? All right. It says also, third, it is made clear by considering the rites of the other sacraments, rites. For nearly all the sacraments terminate in the Eucharist. For thus those who have been ordained receive Holy Communion, as also do those who have been baptized, if they be adults. And so, like, when you were confirmed, it was in the course of a Mass, right?
Right.
Well, not always, but often when you're baptized, it's part of a Mass. When you are ordained a priest,
Mass.
part of a Mass.
And marriage, too.
Ideally, it doesn't have to be, but ideally, you get married, it's part of a Mass. So it's kind of like it's thrown in, you don't get baptized and they say, oh, let's do the anointing of the sick. Let's throw in another sacrament at the same time. But it's like, hey, we're gathering for a sacrament, let's do the Eucharist. Let's all receive Jesus. Okay, so that makes sense. So he says the remaining sacraments may be compared to one another in several ways. For on the ground of necessity, baptism is the greatest of the sacraments, while from the point of view of perfection, order comes first. Interesting, because if you don't have priests, you don't have the Eucharist. You ever think about that? Imagine if all the priests, God forbid, left, or we had no vocations, and there were no priests, 30 years from now. Would you ever have the Eucharist again? You have to have at least one priest, right?
Right.
You just say, you guys are creating a whole bunch of Eucharists because you're like the last one, All right, so let's move on. Okay, so it is definitely the greatest of the sacraments. All right, is the Eucharist necessary for salvation? Do you have to have the Eucharist?
Ooh.
Studio audience says... he's so decisive.
He's very honest.
He knows.
So I would.
I feel like I've heard. I think it was Saint Alphonsus. He said that it was necessary. Insofar as you need the Eucharist to be able to have the graces to avoid sin, essentially.
Right, but I'm assuming also, I don't know. Should some person who had never heard of Jesus, is getting fewer and fewer these days, never heard of Jesus, never had access to the Mass, but was still able to have God revealed to them to an extent, would that...
Well, that's kind of like invincible ignorance, right? Isn't that kind of like its own seperate little...
I don't know. I'm just debating the question.
You're a convert to the Catholic faith, right? So Sissel comes into the faith. She, let's say a day before she comes into the church, God forbid, she gets hit by a bus and she dies. I'm sorry, Sissel. So she never received the Eucharist. Couldn't she be saved?
I mean, they're saying
that everybody, because there's a lot of Protestants who have never received the Eucharist.
I think that God is able, has the power to do what he is able to do.
Because they say that we're bound to the sacraments, but he's not.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
He can,
yeah.
That's what I was thinking. So
all right.
No.
So are those watching out there in social media land are being awful quiet? If you want to chime in and let us know what you think about this. Let us know your comments, and also call in. Somebody's got to call in during the show today. 877-757-9424. 877-757-9424. Okay, so what does St. Thomas Aquinas say? He says two things have to be considered in the sacrament, namely the sacrament itself and what is contained in it. The reality of the sacrament is the unity of the mystical body, without which there can be no salvation, for there is no entering into salvation outside the church, just as in the time of the deluge there was none outside the ark, which denotes the church. And it has been said above that before receiving the sacrament, now this is kind of interesting, the reality of the sacrament can be had through the very desire of receiving the sacrament. Accordingly, before actual reception of the sacrament, a man can obtain salvation through the desire of receiving it, just as he can before baptism through the desire of baptism. Yet there is a difference in two respects. First of all, because baptism is the beginning of the spiritual life and the door of the sacraments, whereas the Eucharist is the consummation of the spiritual life. And so...
Is that where a spiritual communion would kind of come in?
Yeah. So the Protestant who is not fully Catholic unites themselves spiritually. But then again, if their conscience is telling them they have to become a Catholic, then they need to do it, right?
Yeah.
They can't just
But like when they're going through RCIA and they haven't come into full communion yet, but they're like scheduled to, and they like died before that. They were spiritually like
the example of you before you got hit by the bus.
They
right?
did all they could.
It's a really violent death, by the way.
I know.
You could have just said like died peacefully in her sleep.
No, hit by a bus.
I know it's a better visual.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, would it be the same thing?
Should I get an image of a bus on the
Oh
PowerPoint?
my gosh.
So all right. So there we go. It is necessary. You have to at least desire it, and so. A Protestant who ardently desires the Eucharist, if they get hit by the bus, they can be saved. But I think also they have to follow their conscience. So if their conscience says join the Catholic Church and they don't do it, then that might be a different story. It also explains, lately where there's been a dispensation for receiving, going to Mass. People stay at home. They watch the televised Mass. It's not the same, but they have in essence received the Eucharist through their desire, at least from what Thomas Aquinas is saying. That doesn't mean it's on par with going to Mass. All right, so when was the Eucharist instituted? Every good Catholic knows
Last
that,
Supper.
right? All right, so why did Jesus choose to institute the Eucharist at the Last Supper? I mean, he could have done it, a lot of places at the Mount of Beatitudes. He could have done it, hanging out with the apostles a month before that. Why did he choose that time to do that?
Okay, I have a couple of theories.
All right, and he's.
I don't have any, so you go.
Oh, what? Uh-oh. That's not good. I'm suddenly second-guessing everything. No, well, one thing I would say is because he also was technically instituting the priesthood, too, to his apostles, right?
Yeah.
So he was kind of same. It kind of goes along with that. But also, I feel like we as humans... Oh, sorry. We as humans are pretty,
I love the way you guys bounce stuff on each other.
We were against each other. We're against each other in the game.
Yeah.
We are friends the rest of the time.
Yeah. Right. That's
because
good to know.
Everyone wants to be a winner. So... This is more of a silly one, but I feel like we as humans are pretty forgetful and quickly put things in the back of our mind. So, like, if he had done it earlier, maybe we would not have made the connection with his physical death.
Mm-hmm.
Like that the apostles would have been like, take them 10 years. Like,
do you remember that guy?
Wait, he said that.
Who was that guy?
He said that like 2 years before that happened. Whoa, guys, what do you think if that was connected?
Yeah,
so
that kind of thing.
I think I actually remember. I heard in a talk once. So, I think the reason he did it was because it was the beginning of the sacrifice of the cross, and he had to, when he drank the wine, like he drank the 2 cups of wine, and then that was supposed to symbolize like the beginning of the sacrifice process in the Jewish tradition, and then at the end when he was crucified, he drank the last little bit of wine. It was finished.
You've been reading Scott Hahn's The Last Supper.
Yes. That's you're right.
Yeah, Aquinas didn't... he wasn't privy to Scott Hahn's books, but you're right. But he's not going to probably go that theological deep. But it's actually interesting because everybody thinks Aquinas is so deep and so theological. Listen to what he says here because it's more kind of like sentimentality. I mean, it's really interesting. By the way, if you're listening, you want to call in. We love to get at least one caller every program. 877-757-9424. 877-757-9424. So look what he says here. He says, this sacrament was appropriately instituted at the supper when Christ conversed with his disciples for the last time. First of all, because of what is contained in the sacrament. For Christ is himself contained in the Eucharist sacramentally. Consequently, when Christ was going to leave his disciples in his proper species, he left himself with them under the sacramental species as an emperor's image is set up to be reverenced in his absence. Okay, so if I gave my baseball glove to my son, and so when I go and because my dad had given me the baseball glove, so when I see the baseball glove, I always think of my dad. And now my son one day may pass it along to his son, and so it's something that you pass along. But Jesus Christ was in the unique position to be able to pass along himself, because we can't do that for our sons.
So it was sort of like a final parting gift.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wow,
which is why it's kind of, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think this is the first time that and last time probably that Jonathan and I went deeper than St. Thomas did on it.
Oh, yeah.
Right. You guys are like, I got you there, man. We're going deeper.
Because we always thought he was going to go deeper, but that's really beautiful, actually.
Secondly, because without faith in the Passion, there could never be any salvation. It was necessary according that there should be at all times among men something to show forth our Lord's passion, the chief sacrament of which is the old law was the Paschal Lamb. And so, I mean, if we just got together and said, read the gospel story, but it's something tangible, something physical to remember that event, because we're actually, reliving, Calvary. I mean, it's just amazing. Thirdly, and this is kind of cool. And this kind of this kind is what Cecil was getting at, because the last words, chiefly such as are spoken by departing friends, are committed most deeply to memory, since they especially affection for friends is more enkindled, and the things which affect us most are impressed in the deepest of the soul. You were actually right. I mean,
we're forgetful people, man.
So think about that. Okay, my dad passed away many, many years ago. I still remember the last conversation I had with him.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember because I was moving to California, and I said,
"Well, you lived in California?"
I did. I lived.
That's it. I'm out of here.
I lived in Hollywood for a while.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah, actually Hollywood. And so you remember the last thing somebody says with you. You ever? This is probably a pretty kind of weird comparison, but do you ever get out of the car, and not that you wouldn't be listening to Catholic radio, but maybe you're listening to a music station, and that song that the very last song you heard
is stuck in your
it's
head.
in your head all day, right? So he's saying, hey, the last time they were with him in this life, this is what he said. He gave them this, and that's what they remember most about him. Okay. All right, so everybody on board? Everybody
so.
Out there in
most part.
social media land enjoying? Give us a
hope
call
so.
if you want to participate in the program, 877-757-9424, 877-757-9424. And we're talking about St. Thomas Aquinas and Corpus Christi and the Eucharist. Okay, whether the body of Christ be in this sacrament in very truth or merely as in a figure or sign. If you guys get this one wrong, then you're off the show, okay? Is it really the body of Christ, or is it just a sign? What do you think, in studio guest? Really, or just a sign? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, number one. Okay,
Yes.
so let's play. What are some of the most iconic signs in the
The bat signal.
the
bat signal.
the Batman.
Got a point.
Yes.
Okay. So look at these that I put up there. Okay,
Route
and
66.
you actually have that on your car, don't you?
I do. I love Route
Okay,
66.
and what are some of the other ones? The Golden Arches, probably one of the most famous signs in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And what about?
Where's the Adidas sign? You have Nike up there.
Yeah, God, no, I think.
Adidas.
What is the Adidas sign?
It's
Isn't
like
it just the word Adidas?
No, it's like the
It's
weird
the little triangle
with
thing.
two stripes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think Nike's probably more famous, isn't it? So do we have this back up on screen? Okay.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Now, what about the little? You recognize this one that I'm pointing to here? What is that?
Walmart.
Is that Walmart?
Yeah.
The little.
But the point here is that these are just signs.
Right.
Okay, that is not Walmart. Okay, you can't enter into that sign and buy, a loaf of bread. Okay, sorry. The sign for Batman is not Batman.
I
right?
would make the argument that the stop sign, if you ran into the stop sign, you might stop.
Got a point.
Well, I don't know.
You just
that'd have to be a pretty
blown.
pretty amazing stop sign. Okay, I got the poison sign up here. The poison sign is not poison. You could lick it.
It might poison you if you eat it.
Should not.
I
we're
would
not saying-
recommend
yeah,
you licking
we're not
it.
recommending that.
Route 66 sign is not Route 66. Okay, so you get the point. It's these are just signs.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people would say that the Eucharist, when Protestant church, they would say we are remembering Jesus, but it's just a sign.
Sign and
It's-
symbol.
Yeah, it's a sign and a symbol. So you might imagine Thomas doesn't agree. Okay, so here's what he's going to say. The presence of Christ's true body and blood in the sacrament cannot be detected by sense nor understanding, but by faith alone, which rests upon divine authority. Now, this is suitable first for the perfection of the new law, for the sacrifices of the old law contained only in figure that true sacrifice of Christ's passion. Okay, so the killing of the bulls and the bullocks and that kind of stuff, that was a figure of what was to come. Therefore, it was necessary that the sacrifice of the new law instituted by Christ should have something more, namely that it should contain Christ himself. All right, secondly, this belongs to Christ's love, out of which, for our salvation, he assumed a true body of our nature, and because it is a special feature of friendship to live together with friends. Okay, it's kind of sentimental. He's talking about, hey, he wants to be with us, physically, to be with us. Okay, thirdly, it belongs to the perfection of faith, which concerns his humanity, just as it does his Godhead. And since faith is of things unseen, as Christ shows us his Godhead invisibly, so also in this sacrament he shows us his flesh in an invisible manner. Okay, so do you know, trivia question, don't look at the screen, who was the first heretic to doubt the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist? Now, it's not a household name, so if it doesn't just like, oh yeah, of course, I know that, you know. You can ask them all. You don't know this. No offense, but if you know this, seriously, you think you know this? Okay, let them whisper it to you, and then I'll start reading this. Some men, Aquinas says, not paying heed to these things, have contended that Christ's body and blood are not in the sacrament except as in a sign, a thing to be rejected as heretical, since it is contrary to Christ's words. Okay, what did he say?
I don't think it's the right answer, but it is a good point. He had a good point. He said, first person to doubt, St. Peter. Doubting, like, as in, like, doubting.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought that was a pretty witty answer. Not for the particular presence, but yeah, it's pretty witty.
Yeah. You should see this look in his face. Like, he is like, man,
he knows.
Should I tell him he's wrong, or should I just kind of let it pass?
It's close.
Okay, so it was a good guess, but I thought you might say Thomas, because remember Thomas, doubting Thomas?
That's true.
He doubted that Jesus really had resurrected and all that. So it was actually a guy named Berengarius. Okay, I know, that's on the tip of your tongue.
Yeah,
it
was.
Okay, Berengarius, who had been the first deviser of this heresy, was afterwards forced to withdraw his error and to acknowledge the truth of the faith. And you know what they did to heretics back in the day, right? Yeah, do you know what they did?
Did not give him a fluffy pillow and a nice warm bed.
They didn't say, hey, can we talk about this and dialogue? No, actually they did. They would go to him
in the beginning.
They like, Jonathan is our resident heretic, and we would go to him and we'd say, Jonathan, that position you have in the faith is not accurate, and you're actually going out and kind of polluting people's minds about that. So we would highly suggest that you change your tune and no longer spout heresy. Okay.
To which I would reply, no.
Right, and then they'd say, please, because it's not going to be good if you don't do that. Okay,
no.
If you don't, okay, still not. You know what they do next?
What?
They send you to the state, and you're done.
Actually, your point sounds very convincing.
So you got to wonder, like a guy like Berengarius under threat of death, which, of course, the church doesn't do that now. But back in the day, in the Middle Ages, I mean, they went medieval on people.
Brutal.
I mean, so but Thomas would explain that, hey, it's for the salvation of souls. I mean, they're leading people into damnation, and we've got to put an end to this, right? And like I said, not what the church teaches now, but that's what they did back then. So Berengarius changed his mind, as did some other heretics on their deathbed, because they were gently coerced into changing their minds. So, all right, so we're a little bit more than halfway through the show, and haven't had our first call yet. If anybody wants to call in, 877-757-9424. This is Back to the Father. We are talking about St. Thomas Aquinas and his teaching in the Summa Theologia, and our phone number is 877-757-9424. My email went out kind of late today, so you may not have gotten it on time. So anyways, if you didn't hear this, you wouldn't be listening to me anyways. So anyways, we'll move on. All right, any questions from the in-studio panel?
Actually, I have one. No, I'm not sure if this is really an issue back in Aquinas' day, but did he have any opinions on receiving the Blessed Sacrament in the hand versus on the tongue?
I don't think hand was an option.
Yeah, it wasn't.
But back then, I don't think anybody received in the hand. But it's a good question. Like, why did they start doing that in the first place?
I thought it just sort of slipped into habit. That's kind of how I heard that.
And you think also like during the plague, or because like what happened in 2020 and 2021 wasn't the first time that ever happened in the history of the world.
Well, I know during the plague, at least in some places, they would have these special like rods that would hold the Eucharist, and they would put it into the plague house. There's like a mural of this.
I had a lady at a smoothie place delivered about 6 months ago in the height of COVID. Mm-hmm. I ordered it, and she brought it out, and it was on like one of those big like collection baskets. She didn't want to get within 6 feet of me, and so she put it on there and then came out to the car. But anyways, comparing smoothies to the Eucharist, I don't know what they would have done. But the short answer is no, he did not talk about reception on the tongue versus the hands. But be interesting to see what he would think about that.
Yeah.
You might have already said it, but that first heretic about the with the Eucharist, when was that again?
Berengarius, good question. I think I want to say maybe 15th century, because the heretics started coming out. Wait, no, what am I talking about? Because that would have been after Thomas. So obviously, if he's living in the 13th century, Berengarius would have had to been, because he knew about him. So I don't know.
I was just curious when, the first, someone publicly was trying to say it wasn't, Yeah.
That would have been him. Yeah. So I don't know. We have to look that up. Maybe maybe a fact checker out there can find out when did Berengarius live. But I don't know the answer. I'm guessing probably within 100 years of St. Thomas Aquinas. All right. So next question is the form of the sacrament, this is my body and this is the chalice of my blood. Okay, and you're probably thinking,
why is it a turkey?
Our in-studio person cannot. You're thinking, why has he got a picture of a turkey on there? Okay, the reason I put a turkey is I was just looking for a picture of an animal, and what is the form of what is on the screen there? So every composite has form and matter, right?
Yeah.
And so you have form, you have matter. Yeah. Your matter is your body and your skin and your teeth and your hair, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's your form?
A human.
Like rational intellect. It's what makes you what you are, right? Would be the rational intellect. So what's the form of the turkey?
I think they're very rational.
We just need to cut that bit of audio out. And what is the form of the turkey? Silence.
That could be a promo for our show.
Yeah.
Stand by, people. It's going to be a thing.
You guys are not taking this seriously. No, but the form of a turkey.
You put a turkey on
the form of a turkey. Do you know what the form of a turkey is? Is turkeyness. Okay. It's the essence of a turkey. No, seriously. The form of a dog is dogginess. Okay. So like for example, our in-studio guest here, when I'm going to say a word, okay? You guys can all play along, okay? I'm going to say, let's say turtle.
Turtleness?
Okay?
Turtleness.
In each of your minds, a turtle just popped up in your mind, okay? And you saw a shell, and you saw a little head, and yours might have been green, and yours might have been brown, and our in-studio guests may have been black, right? But it would have been a turtle, okay? And so what? But you didn't see it. You didn't see a picture of a turtle. So what was that got into your head? Turtleness. Okay.
I like how you were telling us to take it seriously, and then you say the words turkeyness comes out of your mouth.
And then dogginess.
And turtleness. Okay, we have a question. Okay, you got to ask Cecil because you're not allowed to be on the air. Okay, so...
I'm proud to have turkeyness in my head.
So if the form of a turkey is turkeyness, it's what makes a turkey. Because a turkey isn't made by feathers, or it's something beyond that, okay? That's why you saw a green turtle and he saw a black one. She saw, because the color of the turtle isn't part of turtleness. Okay, there's something else. There's like that essence of a turtle. Okay, so
great.
now we're saying, okay, this is my body, this is the chalice of my blood, the form of the Eucharist. Is that what makes it what it is? Okay, so Smarty Pants, what do you think? Yeah.
Our smarticles have left us.
It's all fun and games until we get off turkeyness, isn't it? Okay.
We need to have a T-shirt of that.
Man, you want to hear what St. Thomas Aquinas has to say on this?
Yes.
Okay. So, all right. So he says this sacrament differs from the other sacraments in two respects. First of all, in this, that the sacrament is accomplished by the consecration of the matter, while the rest are perfected by the use of the consecrated matter. Okay, so when Cecil was baptized as an adult?
I was 6.
Okay, so when you were baptized, regular water was poured on you, right? Mm-hmm. But that water had an instrumental power to actually do something, right? But the water didn't change. It didn't become something other than water, right? The oil at confirmation is chrism oil. It doesn't become something else. All right, so that's what he's saying. It's different that way, right? You got it? Got it? Everybody's good? Okay, thumbs up. Okay, also, in the other sacraments, the consecration of the matter consists only in a blessing from which the matter consecrated derives instrumentally a spiritual power, which through the priest, who is an animated instrument, can pass on to inanimate instruments, okay? But in this sacrament, the consecration of the matter consists in the miraculous change of the substance, which can only be done by God. Hence, the minister, in performing the sacrament, has no other act save the pronouncing of the words. Okay, all the priest has to do is say the words correctly, and it happens, right? Okay, the form of the other sacraments implies the use of the matter, as, for instance, baptizing or signing, but the form of this sacrament implies merely the consecration of the matter, which consists in transubstantiation. This is my body, this is a chalice of my blood. Okay, so as soon as a priest says those words, it changes. Okay, so that becomes the form of what it is. Okay, now this is kind of interesting, this last paragraph here. Okay, the forms of the other sacraments are pronounced in the person of the minister, whether by way of exercising an act, when he says, I baptize thee, or I confirm thee, or by way of command, as when it is said in the sacrament of order, take the power, or by way of entreaty, as when in the sacrament of extreme unction it is said, by this anointing and our intercession. But the form of this sacrament is pronounced as if Christ were speaking in person, so that it is a person, it is given to be understood that the minister does nothing in perfecting the sacrament except pronounce the words of Christ. Okay, so if I baptize somebody, I say, I baptize you. Okay, the bishop, that confirms. But in the Eucharist, it's Jesus Christ doing all the action. All the priest has to do is say the right words.
I was actually talking with a Protestant about this a couple days ago, and I wonder if you could confirm this kind of, that it's the Catholic belief that the priest, in a sense, becomes Christ, like Christ overtakes him in saying that, this is my body, and that's part of the reason, at least, why the priest has to be a man instead of a woman, because he has to be Christ,
Yeah, in persona Christi.
Yeah.
So he becomes another Christ.
Exactly, yeah.
Which is interesting, because I remember when I was a kid, one time the priest came in, I was really, really young, and I was like, Mom, Dad, there's Jesus. And in a sense, you're kind of right. I mean, because when he's up there, he's in persona Christi. So I think, that's right. Now you said, Christ takes him over. I don't know
that's probably the best wording.
That's interesting. But all right, not getting a lot of comments from the audience out there. If you guys want to comment on anything, let us know what's on your mind. Does this make sense? Comment or call in 877-757-9424, 877-757-9424. All right, the question we've all been waiting for with bated breath, okay? Whether Christ received his own body and blood at the Last Supper. Okay, so I think you were on the hook for saying, yes, he did.
For the record,
Cecil was kind of equivocating, not quite sure. What do you think, Mr. Studio Audience? Did Jesus actually consume his own flesh at the Last Supper? What do you think, up or down? He says yes. Okay, wow, what a smart guy. Okay. Thomas says, some have said that Christ during the supper gave his body and blood to his disciples, but did not partake of it himself. But this seems improbable, because Christ himself was the first to fulfill what he required others to observe. Hence, he willed first to be baptized when imposing baptism upon others. Hence, he first took of all his own body and blood, and afterwards gave it to his disciples. And hence, when he had eaten and drunk, says, okay, so Christ ate and drank at the supper when he gave to the disciples the sacrament of his body and blood. Hence, because the children partook of his flesh and body, he also hath been partaker of the same. So, Jonathan, good job.
Thank you.
Yes.
They go wild.
The crowd goes wild. So, yes, Jesus did partake of his own. Okay, so now the last article we'll talk about, and then we'll get into the trivia fire round. Whether the priest ought to deny the body of Christ to the sinner seeking it. And I have on there a picture of President Biden, presumably having just received the Eucharist, because that's something that bishops are still debating about, whether or not President Biden, who disagrees with official church teaching on a lot of things, abortion and marriage and religious liberty, And there's also a picture there of Archbishop Corleone from the Archdiocese of San Francisco and one of his flock, Nancy Pelosi, and he has, talked about this. In fact, he has said that, people who are public sinners should not receive the Eucharist. So did you know this was an issue back in the 13th century?
Do we know who he was talking about or was there someone specific on their mind, or did he just write
Well,
it?
good question. He doesn't name names.
Got it.
But he names actions.
Gotcha.
Who do you think he had in mind?
Well, yeah, but I'm curious. Does Pelosi get denied the Eucharist? Because I heard that Biden doesn't, but I haven't heard about Pelosi.
Yeah, well, Biden, of course, he's from Delaware but lives in D.C. Pelosi is from San Francisco but lives in D.C. I don't think Archbishop Gregory in D.C.
I guess that they're in the same diocese.
Yeah, but when he's home, or when Nancy Pelosi is home, I believe Bishop Corleone has said no. I don't know that for 100% sure, but then again, he's not at every mass, and the priest has to make a decision. What if the priest, for some reason, didn't even recognize her? There's a lot of things to consider. All right, so but to Sissel's question, what kind of professions, what kind of people would St. Thomas Aquinas have in mind? He actually names.
Oh, okay.
He names them.
Because he knew I was going to ask that question.
Yes. So you guys want to take any guesses? Who do you have in mind as far as the public sinners in the 13th century? You might be surprised by what he says.
I mean, I couldn't think of actual names, but no doubt probably politicians.
Politicians?
Maybe
okay.
Even people in the church who had
heretics.
public people. Yeah.
Heretics.
Heretics,
like Berengarius.
Yeah, Berengarius should not receive.
Garius.
Well, considering he didn't believe in it. Well,
Well, yeah, he didn't
that too. Maybe if there was, I don't know, not really super familiar if there's any scandals going on at that time, but if there was a priest or bishop that was acting out, they probably shouldn't receive it either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, these are all good guesses, not absolutely correct ones, but I respect those guesses. Okay. He says a distinction must be made among sinners. Some are secret, others are notorious, either from evidence of the fact as public usurers or public robbers, or from being denounced as evil men by some ecclesiastical or civil tribunal, which I think is to your point. Somebody like Berengarius, you shouldn't receive it. Interesting, public robbers. Who today is a public robber, but
the people who tweet, I'm going to go rob this place.
Well, no, I think he's thinking about, in more modern sense, it's like Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh, I see what you mean. Those notorious people that everyone kind of knows about, but they haven't been caught.
Babyface Floyd. There was that time, in the 1920s, where there were these notorious sinners. So if Bonnie and Clyde were racing around the country, robbing banks and killing people, and they present themselves for the Eucharist, I think that's what he had in mind. Yeah. Right now, we don't really have the Bonnies and Clydes.
I mean, wouldn't most celebrities be notorious sinners also?
Yeah, well, I don't know, in modern day, but he says, Cyprian writes to someone, okay? So this is, Cyprian, an early church father. He said, "You were so kind as to consider that I ought to be consulted regarding actors and that magician who continues to practice his disgraceful arts among you, as to whether I thought that Holy Communion ought to be given to such with the other Christians. I think that it is beseeming neither the divine majesty nor Christian discipline for the church's modesty and honor to be defiled by such shameful and infamous contagion." Okay, so I don't know if the contagion refers to the person or just the act of giving them the Eucharist. So he's talking about magicians, actors. He mentions actors.
Yeah,
okay, so
interesting.
They've always been bad.
Yeah. So, but I wonder if it wouldn't have been all actors. I mean, weren't there some good actors back then? But maybe ones that were profane or did something that was kind of, I don't know that they had
living just immorally.
Yeah, like a famous person. Did you know, for example, and this is a little bit like John Wilkes Booth, who killed Lincoln. You know, he was like the Brad Pitt of his day. He was a very famous actor. Seriously, I mean, he was so he would have been a notorious
That's really
Sinner.
funny to think about because nowadays we can like see what actors are doing. We can catch them on camera, like you know, stealing, shoplifting or something. You know, it's so interesting that you could. I guess people was just based on notoriety. Like you just were heard of something. They had done something. Like
the actors back then, when weren't on the big screen.
Couldn't
or
actually
like that.
confirm. You know, so interesting.
Okay, so our in studio person has a question. So Susie, do you want to get that? He says, "But if they be not open sinners, but a cult, the Holy Communion should not be denied them if they ask for it. For instance, every Christian, from the fact that he is baptized, is admitted to the Lord's table. He may not be robbed of his right except from some open cause. Nevertheless, a priest who has knowledge of the crime can privately warn the secret sinner or warn all openly in public from approaching the Lord's table until they have repented of their sins and have made reconciled to the church. Because after repentance and reconciliation, communion must not be refused, even to public sinners." Okay, and then he talks again about stage actors, apostates, and so, really, this is Canon 915. Right. This is, and I think reading this literally, he would say a guy like President Biden, he publicly espouses the murdering of babies and abortion. He publicly espouses, unnatural marriage. I can't imagine how you can read Aquinas and say that would not qualify as a public sinner. Can you guys? No. But on the other hand, if the priest knows of somebody who's maybe cheating on his wife and it's not like or committing adultery, same thing, committing adultery, fornication. That's not public unless he's out parading and bragging about it or something like that.
Right,
so at any point, there's some subjectivity to it, and so you got to use some discernment, right?
Right, absolutely.
All right, that brings us to the end of our program, but it's not over yet,
and
folks.
the beginning of another.
Yeah. So now we get the interesting time when you guys want to go first because I got a few questions
we should.
for you
I'm
as
kind
well.
of interested. So this is the part of the program where
You're not doing your voice.
I'm waiting for my theme music. Thank you. All right, folks.
Why do I feel like I'm on the Love Boat all of a sudden? Hey, everybody.
It's that time of the show where Jonathan and I put Dave on the hot seat and give him so much to think about. We kind of messed up the timing of that. We'll practice. We'll get better. So this is the time of the show where Jonathan and I ask trivia questions about St. Thomas Aquinas that we have scoured libraries for. Or the Google. Although Jonathan has an issue.
And I think you kind of do as well.
I do not have as much of an issue as you have.
You do not. Yeah, that's true.
Do you guys think about this like all week, or is it just like Friday morning? You're like,
more
Friday 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly.
30 minutes ago.
So yeah, I have a bit of an issue because you sort of just
you mentioned his trivia question.
Although you only mentioned
during
half.
The course.
He did technically. You could rephrase it, Jonathan, and you'll be okay.
You only
was the
mentioned
Heretic,
like half of it, sort of.
Half of it.
So
okay.
So
do you want to ask it?
Beyond the
wait.
So you're already probably saying I'm going to get this one right, right? See, I always find a way to foil their evil plans.
We fixed it.
Okay, we fixed it.
You have one question?
Yes.
Okay.
So as you stated, Aquinas had been offered the office of the a bishop.
Bishopric.
So how many times was he offered an office that was higher than his current one?
Why do you always do these how many times? How many
that's
St.
the only way
Thomas
I can...
Aquinas?
Because he was going to ask
what was the 8th thing that Aquinas said?
Well, because
you literally said he was
warm
offered.
baths.
He was offered to
be bishop.
To be bishop.
How many times was he offered? That's
or at least how many offices?
Okay, how many different offices
was he offered?
Did he said no to?
Mm-hmm.
Got to go with the gut. Okay, 4.
No, it was 2.
Oh,
it was abbots of his.
Oh yeah! Oh gosh, that scared me. Did Diane do that?
Yes.
Oh my god! I thought our building just exploded.
I forgot we got that.
Oh
I know,
my
me too.
goodness! I'll be ready next time. Okay, when I ask them their question, be ready with that sound effect. Okay. Okay. So abbot of.
It was abbot of his community.
Okay.
Or his monastery. Is that what you call
abbot?
friars?
Abbey.
Abbey. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
And then the bishop.
Okay.
So the first one was. I think the bishop tried to get him to be the abbot, and he denied that. And then the pope tried to get him to be the
Did he say, like, talk to the hand? Because I ain't going to do it,
Essentially,
right? Yeah.
Oh, bonus points if you know which pope asked him to be.
Urban the Fourth.
What?
Urban the Fourth?
No.
Okay. Because he's the one who asked him to write the liturgy for Corpus Christi. So he's
It was a different pope, though, to ask him to be a bishop.
Okay, who's that?
It was Pope Innocent IV.
Okay, that's what I meant.
Obviously.
All right.
Well, we managed to save that one, Jonathan.
Yeah,
we did because as soon as we were dying, he had his helmet on, thank goodness, so he was able to
Yeah.
hide it. But I was dying as soon as you said, he was offered to be bishop. And I'm like, that was Jonathan's
All
question.
Right. Jonathan was shaking underneath that helmet, the Viking helmet. Okay, so maybe I can have better luck.
Admittedly, Dave, sometimes I just have to choose a question that might take some guesswork for you, or unless you really know it, then I'm going to be really sad.
All right.
In what year did St. Thomas Aquinas receive the habit?
Oh, the habit. That's a great question. So he's born approximately 1225. I think he probably would have entered religious life at about maybe 20. So now we're at 12. Oh, no, don't die. No, entering religious life and receiving the habit are different, right? You mean like final vows? What do you mean by the habit?
This article is a little bit confusing. I would not say.
She doesn't even understand
You
her own
are
question.
totally disqualified from
I'm
asking
sorry.
this question. I mean, what does
so
he mean by
I don't.
receiving the
I'm
habit?
going to say the first time he donned the habit, not that he took final vows.
Okay, so
they
the first
do.
time he entered religious
Yes,
life?
we'll say
okay,
that.
so born in 1225. I'm going to say 1246. Oh! I got to get it exactly right.
1244.
I was within 2 years.
So
Come on.
no, we didn't set up any ground rules before then. Also, I will say this: if you had guessed another year, I would have given it to you because it's in 1243. He secretly joined the Order of Dominican monks in receiving the habit in 1244.
Okay,
So
you're rubbing it in that I could have had two right.
you
but
could
I got
have
them
had two
both
right,
wrong.
Dave.
Okay.
But
All right.
I would just like to say I'm the one who chose those sound effects, and they're scaring me now.
I
So
know.
you don't
Well,
even, you don't even get to hear what it sounds like to be right.
If you know it's coming, then it's
yeah.
not so bad. The first time, especially since we are in a building that like things
potentially fall apart at any time.
Yeah, like,
Wait,
like parking garages
Yes,
collapse.
yes.
And,
Should we give him an opportunity to hear the correct sound?
Well, what if we get it right? Then
don't rub it in that I haven't heard that. Okay,
Well,
so here
we'll
we
get
go.
it right, and he'll hear.
All right. So, other than St. Thomas Aquinas, now there's a little subjectivity to this, but I think it's
Okay.
pretty accurate. The four most famous Dominicans of all time, other than St. Thomas Aquinas, and so I will.
Saint Dominic.
Okay. So so you should make that sound, the good sound, Diane. Oh, let's see. Okay, so St. Dominic. That's pretty
Can you
obvious,
play it?
but yeah.
Well, I don't care, Dave. I will stoop as low as
what-
possible and get those
Okay,
points.
and what was Dominic?
That's not the right one.
That's the Love Boat theme. Okay, Dominic de Guzman, by the
Okay.
way, is his name. I guess he was a Spaniard. Dominic.
There we
All
go.
right, there we go. Okay, so time for Jonathan to take a guess. We're down to about the last 2 minutes of the program. So get that bomb thing ready. Okay, so and these are well-known saints. Okay, these aren't like obscure saints. That were Dominicans.
I mean, okay, you got Aquinas, you got Saint Dominic. Oh, did you say other than?
Thank
other
you,
than
Captain
Aquinas?
Reviewer. Other than that.
Okay, so,
other than that.
If I just say a random name and hope that's right.
Yeah, go for it.
Saint Fernando.
Come on.
You were saying
let's hear
actual
the-
saints, like the one you knew of. You just said
Come
a
on,
name.
we got to hear the sound. You got it wrong.
Oh.
There we go.
That fits.
All right, so one more try. You're
Oh,
eliminated
I was okay.
entirely.
I was okay
so-
with not getting another try.
Shame.
Come on, these are household
I'm
names.
sure they are. I just get really confused.
What about the
with
guy who said he called him
Bellarmine.
No, the one that
No.
said you call him the dumb ox, but that the bellowing of this dumb ox is going to resound for centuries. It was his mentor, the guy who his primary mentor of St. Thomas Aquinas, kind of like the Ambrose of Augustine.
Saint
was
Aquinas Senior.
Senior, that's going the wrong way.
Saint Albert the Great. Have you not heard of him?
Oh.
Hey, question: did Bonaventure become a Dominican? Because I don't remember.
No, he's Franciscan. Yeah. No, okay. So
They're all Franciscans.
do you want to try one more time? I just want
Do I
that.
really
I just want
want
that
to?
explosion sound for Sissel because
Getting a taste of
she deserves
the
it. And when
failure.
I
I
say
kind of don't like it.
when I say these, okay, I'll give you a hint. The other two are women.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
No, that doesn't help me.
Yeah.
You've eliminated half the saints.
Is Saint Therese?
Who was a Poor Clare?
Okay, never
she
mind.
was a Carmelite. Yeah, Teresa. Avila and Lisieux were both Poor. No, I'm sorry, we're Carmelites. All right, so here we go, because I know we got to go. Got to
Okay.
end this. St. Catherine of Siena.
She was
She was a lay Dominican. Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Oh, she was. That's right. I didn't know that.
Don't you remember when we had the interview with our friend Roy Johnston? Did you record that?
I
We talked
don't.
about. Okay, last one is the name that my daughter Maura chose as her saint when she was confirmed about a month ago. Not that either of you should know that. Saint Rose of Lima.
I love Saint Rose of Lima.
I have no idea who that is.
You never heard of Saint Rose of Lima?
You've
Nope.
never heard.
man.
One of my best friends, that's her confirmation saint as well.
Yeah, she's
That's
the one that
bad.
was beautiful, and she wanted to go into religious life, but she was so beautiful, and all the men were courting her, so she disfigured her face to make herself look ugly. Have you heard
my
this story?
goodness.
Mm-hmm.
She did that?
Yeah.
Wow.
And all right, that does it. Thanks everybody for your participation in the program today. Thank you, Jonathan and Sissel and Diane, and our in-studio guest, who has now left. He's like, I'm out of here. All right, see you next week. God bless you.
2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now. That's right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for Back to the Father. And don't forget, the glory of God is the human person fully alive. If you have comments about the show, email Dave Palmer at grnonline.com.
And Ricardo is a Year of Faith number prime. Christ is the Answer program.
Thanks. It's a great question.